Behind the heavy curtains of the Oval Office, there is a history they tried to burn, a chronicle of addiction, hidden illnesses, and double lives that would shatter the image of the leader of the free world. Today, we are opening the vault. We're going past the propaganda to show you the side of the US presidents that was never meant to be seen. Welcome to the archives. The White House was never clean.
Every American knows his face from the dollar bill, the stoic, unbreakable George Washington. But history has been cleaned, polished, and bleached. The man who sat in the high chair was not a marble statue. He was a man of shadows, living in constant physical agony and surrounded by a reality that would disturb any modern citizen. Let's talk about the smile of the first leader. For centuries, school books said his dentures were made of wood. That is a comforting lie. The truth is much more visceral. Washington's mouth was a graveyard of ivory and human remains. Records show he purchased teeth from the very people he held in bondage, Mount Vernon. Every time he spoke of liberty, he did so through the teeth of those who had none.
Washington wasn't just a general. He was a medical miracle and a victim of his era. He suffered from every disease imaginable: malaria, smallpox, dysentery. To survive the pain, he relied on the black drop, a potent mixture of opium. Behind the closed doors of his study, the leader of the revolution was often in a drug-induced haze, fighting off the shadows of his own failing body.
His death wasn't peaceful. On his deathbed, his doctors practiced bloodletting, draining nearly half the blood from his body to cure a throat infection. The father of the nation didn't just die, he was systematically drained of life by the science of his time. He was never president, but he held more power than most who were. Benjamin Franklin, the face of the $100 bill, the man of science. But in the shadows of London and Paris, Franklin lived a life that would have ended any other career. While in England, Franklin was a frequent guest at the Medmenham Abbey, the home of the infamous Hellfire Club. This wasn't a gentleman's debating society. It was a place of ritual, excess, and activities that were scrubbed from every official biography. They mocked religion and practiced dark arts that the public was never meant to see. In 1998, renovators at Franklin's former London home found something terrifying: over 1,200 human bones buried in a secret pit in the basement. Was the founding father a secret anatomist or something darker? While historians claim it was for scientific study, the image of the great diplomat living above a literal mass grave is a reality the history books won't show your children. Franklin was America's first master of dark propaganda. He frequently wrote fake newspaper articles under pseudonyms to manipulate public opinion. He wasn't just a scientist, he was the first architect of fake news used for political gain. The great emancipator, the man who saved the Union. But Abraham Lincoln's greatest battle wasn't on the field of Gettysburg, it was inside his own mind. Lincoln suffered from what they called hypochondriasis, a deep, paralyzing clinical depression. To combat his black dogs, he took blue mass pills. The main ingredient? Mercury. For years, the president was effectively poisoning himself, leading to bouts of rage and erratic behavior that his advisors had to hide from the public to prevent a national panic. Few know that the Lincoln administration was obsessed with the occult. After the death of their son Willie, the First Lady, Mary Todd Lincoln, turned to spiritualism. They held seances in the Red Room. Imagine the commander-in-chief sitting in a dark circle, trying to summon the spirits of the dead while the country was burning in civil war. The relationship between Abe and Mary was a battlefield. Mary was often physically aggressive and suffered from severe mental instability. There were nights when the president would wander the streets of Washington just to avoid the domestic storm inside his own home. The log cabin myth hides a life of profound loneliness and psychological trauma. Andrew Jackson was a man of violence. He carried 2 bullets in his body from various duels.
One was lodged so close to his heart that it couldn't be removed. He was a president who lived in constant lead poisoning, which many believe fueled his legendary frontier rage.
Jackson didn't just ignore the Supreme Court, he defied it. His Indian Removal Act was a systematic cleansing that even his contemporaries called a stain on the soul. But the White House at the time used the first media spin to frame it as a humanitarian effort. It was the first massive government cover-up of a tragedy. Jackson didn't trust his official advisors. He ran the country with a group of friends in the kitchen. Corruption was rampant. The spoils system meant that if you were Jackson's friend, the law didn't apply to you. It was the birth of the deep state in its earliest, most raw form. From Pierce to Grant, the early halls of power were fueled by alcohol. It was common for decisions involving thousands of lives to be made by men who had consumed a bottle of whiskey before noon. The image of the sober leader is a 20th century invention. Presidents like William Henry Harrison didn't just get a cold. The White House's water supply was contaminated by a nearby sewage dump. The Palace of the People was a death trap of bacteria and disease, killing leaders and their families silently, while the public was told tales of heroic illness. The American presidency is not just a job, it's a mask. We see the marble, but we forget the clay. These men were brilliant, yes, but they were also broken, addicted, and driven by shadows. The dark secrets aren't just trivia. They are the real history of how power works when the cameras are turned off. Power doesn't just change people, it masks who they truly were. As we look back at these legends, ask yourself, is a leader's greatness measured by their public triumphs or by the shadows they managed to hide? The archives are still being written, and some secrets are still waiting to be told. Don't let the marble fool you. Sleep well, and remember, the truth is rarely as polished as the monument.